to a special soccer show with breaking news on Toronto FC, and I got the legend, the coach, Carmen Asako. Carmen, first of yeah, you look around, okay? Stop looking around. I know you were scared. You were underneath your bed yesterday calling, Joe, are you getting lightning? I got no power here or whatever. Very bad lightning show where you live, right? Me, I was like in the palatial estates and everything. Nothing happening and all that, but hopefully everybody's okay. You know what? We had a good, we're having a good summer. I haven't seen rain in a long time. We need rain, right, Carm?
Absolutely. Yeah, but we got a lot of rain at Toronto FC, that's for sure.
Yeah, let it rain down. Let it rain down. All right. Today, just an hour ago, a couple hours ago, Toronto FC relieved the duties of coach Bob Bradley. My question, you knew this is going to happen because he didn't rebound or whatever. But what happens to his son now that they relieved his coach? Because his son hasn't been playing up to snuff the last maybe, forget about this year, maybe even last year.
I mean, he's a professional. I mean, Michael Bradley's a massive part of our history. Um, he was brought in here to be a leader as a designated player and a six. That's how much respect he's earned. He's going to be an incredible professional through this. I have no doubt. Um, and then when he gets back from injury, or this is his last year of his contract, I think that I think it puts a wrench in what he wants. I think he loves Toronto. I think he saw his future here. I'm not sure if this is going to be a problem, but I mean, it's the life of professional sports, and he's, I'm sure, prepared for all of it. But I wouldn't be surprised if Michael Bradley stays with Toronto FC. Maybe not as a player anymore, or maybe as a player one more year, because he might not want to go out the way he went out this year. Kind of a lot of injuries. But maybe in another capacity, because he's part of the TFC great years, and he'll be fondly remembered throughout it all. And I think he's an amazing professional.
All right, so let me ask you this. Okay, Bob Bradley fired today as a Toronto FC coach. He came in with a lot of fanfare, replacing Greg Vanney and everything like that, and we expected better things. They signed a lot of big time players. Okay, not Messi. We'll talk about Messi and Busquets coming to Inter Miami also. But what? And honestly, you're the coach here. When he signed on, what did you expect?
Um, I expected a more dominant team, and I don't think he was given all the resources to become that dominant team. I'm not sure. It's a tough transition from the Vanny era, the Chris Armas debacle, all that stuff. So what I'm I think that it was a tough transition, and he was kind of a victim of that transition. And I don't think that he needs to take the brunt of the responsibility, but obviously the results weren't there. Obviously the team wasn't performing well. And obviously the players need to look at themselves, because they weren't performing well. The one player that kind of changed his mentality and was Insigne. He kind of turned things on and was fantastic. And Bernadeschi, the one who was the catalyst of all the negativity in the articles, didn't do much to prove his case, because I think one goal or one assist in a long time isn't good enough for a player of that ilk. Rather than going to the media and complaining about the manager, he should be looking at himself to do better, just like Insigne finally did. But there's a lot of question marks. This just didn't work right now. He couldn't get out of the players what he thought he could get out of the players that he did. The LAFC was kind of his blueprint, and he just didn't get it. Didn't get the work rate. Didn't get the tactical alignment. And to be fair, they came from a coach where it was a transition from a Greg Vanney, where he was a lot more organized and detail oriented, and Bradley was more let's find the solutions within the game. You're all professionals. We want a pressing mentality, and I think it was mentality before tactics. And I don't think that's wrong at all, but I do think that I do think that there was a kind of miscommunication, or maybe a taking for granted of what our players were willing to give and willing to take from Bob Bradley. But regardless, I don't think he should have took the brunt of the blame. But he's done. They're moving on. Terry Dunfield is an interesting choice to
I'll
kind of.
get to that in a second, but I wanted to touch on one thing you said, and you're no better guy to ask. Technical, tactical. You said tactical, right? Okay, so you have whatever a better, well, supposedly better players and all that. Tactical, is that the coach or is that inside the players' brains? Because a tactical thing, it's not. He could tell you, okay, you got to move left, you got to move right, you got to be here, you got to be there, but it's the players who have to adapt to that. And let's face it, we're 20 games into the season here. So it isn't, like you said, it isn't so much the coach to blame. Obviously, the coach is there, the headmaster and everything like that. But when you say tactical, isn't it the players?
Yeah, no, at a certain point, yes, it's the player's execution of the tactics. But I mean, you could see a player that was with him, like Mark Anthony, was kind of looking to do the principles that he was taught when he was with Bradley at LAFC, and you could tell that he was committing rather than omitting. And I think that's a perfect example of what this team was. They didn't commit to do what Bob Bradley wanted, which was a high press system, which was let's make sure we stop the ball in the attacking third, make sure that we win it back right away, make sure that we get numbers up, and make sure that we have the appropriate personnel to deal with counter situations. Understand, when he was at LAFC, he had the likes of a young, incredible Zimmerman who could deal with 1v1 situations, and he had a back 2, 3 players that could deal with transition situations. At Toronto FC, he never had that liberty with good center backs that could deal with it and were comfortable with dealing with it, and he still doesn't. So I mean, a lot of it has to come down to, and I guess he was involved in also the player selection and involved in building this team. So I mean, obviously he needs to take some responsibility, accountability, which I think he will. But yeah, I think that high pressing mentality, that let's get forward right away, let's get it to our top 3 players and let them create situations, and not be afraid to get forward like they were at LAFC, which kind of I think was revolutionary in his mentality and revolutionary in his tactics. And I thought that he did an incredible job at LAFC. And I think that a lot of people kind of emulated what LAFC is. And he's been a massive part of the history of the game. I think LAFC was also that. I think that he was important to that. But I don't think that his tactics translated to the, let's be honest, to the Italians. The Italians are used to ball-oriented defending, proper blocks of 8, blocks of 9, broken blocks that have ball-oriented defending, zonal defending, shifting, and a lot of them weren't clear on what their roles were. A lot of them weren't clear on what their roles were, and Bradley was more of a, let's stop the ball and mark everything around it to make sure that it didn't go forward, and there was a disconnect there. And yeah, he needs to say that he didn't get his message across. That was part of it, but I'm more positive that he didn't get, or he wasn't provided the proper personnel to play in that type of system.
Now, when you say he didn't get the proper personnel, as you know, and I'm going to compare MLSC. MLSC spends and spends and spends. Leafs, Raptors, Argos, Blue Jays, or not Blue Jays, but Marlies, TFC. So who did not give him the proper personnel? He made the choices on the players. He made the choices, and let's face it. You mentioned their defense. Their defense hasn't been great since they won the MLS Cup, right? The goalie, the defense were good, but again, everything goes on Bradley. And let me ask you this: are you surprised that it happened now and not 3 weeks ago when all this crap came down?
I think it was. I think it was a snowball effect. I think that had a lot to do with it. I think that Bill Manning had lots of respect and has a lot of respect for Bob Bradley, and didn't want to make that the kind of catalyst to get him fired, which was, I thought, respectable. But it did open up a can of worms. It did open up a lot of deficiencies in the locker room, which is more important. But I think there's still lots to do. There's lots to fix, and Bill Manning has to take responsibility as well. Has to take some accountability and responsibility in some of the decisions he's made. And I'm not sure that and right now, I guess MLSE is going through a transition with I want Tannenbaum's selling some of his selling a lot of his
Well, I'll get
shares.
to Tannenbaum. I'll get break exclusive news right here in about 10 minutes regarding Tannenbaum. All right. We went to synagogue together and all
Yeah, there's
that. So yeah. Shalom, Larry. All right. Shalom. All right. So you mentioned Dunfield. Okay. And he's the interim. And they also fired the assistant coach, I guess, from TFC today. So we should mention that. You say it's questionable about Dunfield because let's face it, they're giving the interim title. The interim title's for a month or 2 months till the season's over. Okay, let's face it. I don't think he's going to be the head coach or whatever. Now, Lacarm, come back here. Just lie back here. I'm wearing the Forge shirt here because it looks like they should hire Forge, a former coach, and you know him very well. But for once, Carm's not paying me and all that. You know where I'm going with this, Carm. For once, any professional soccer team, listen to this guy how he speaks. Listen to the passion. Listen to what he didn't get the tactical, and he never says a bad thing about the coach Bradley. Why isn't Carmen Asako being called just for an interview? Not even for the job, just for an interview to say, hey, Carm, are you interested in this job? You were the former assistant coach of TFC back when we started. How many years ago? 16 years ago? 17 years ago? You think in 16 years you learned something? Maybe you got a second chance. Why doesn't anybody pick up the phone, a cell phone, because MLSC's got 6 cell phones for every person? Pick up a cell phone and say, are you interested in this job? Or what would you do? Because everybody picks your brain, but nobody gives it to say, here's control of the team. Go. You got a 2-3 year contract, except Fired Up Network saw the quality in you and gave you a lifetime deal. But look, honestly, and you don't have to say this because I know you love York University and we all love York University, but it's about time. You want somebody revolutionary. You want somebody who's seen it. You want somebody who trained these guys to be in World Cups, in better, being a better person. Forget about a soccer player. Why isn't this guy getting the phone call? That's all. You don't need to say anything else. You don't need to say anything else. Now, you say Terry Dunfield, okay? They got boatload of people. Why do you think they selected him?
I don't know. Obviously, him and Bill Manning have an understanding. I mean, there's quality. Not that Terry's not quality. I'm sure he's quality. I don't know. I don't. Maybe he's got the respect of the players. There's stuff that we don't know. But I'm not sure if Paul Stelteri's there. And Paul Stelteri, who has over 100 caps for our national team, who's for me, one of the icons of Canadian soccer. I don't know why that wouldn't be a natural transition because he was the second assistant. I don't know obviously what's happening if he's still there, but you know, Joe, this game is about leveraging and politicizing, and maybe that's part of what's happening. I don't know. Not that Terry Dunfield is he's done some work with the national program. I think he's done some decent work with TFC Academy. He's been involved for a long time, former player. I don't think it's a bad decision at all. And I wish him all the best. And hopefully he turns out to be someone with integrity and ability, and gets the ship moving in the right direction. So that's all I'd say on that one. But who knows? I'm not sure what the Stelteri situation was, but that might have been a natural progression for me. Um, and there's lots of candidates, and Johnny Cimini's done a fantastic job. Hopefully, he's involved in some way with the first team now. He's done a fantastic job with MLS Next. He's a fantastic uh, uh, tactical mind,
Okay,
prepared.
hold on, Carm. Let me ask you a question here. First, Mike Sober was the one
Yeah,
who was relieved. He's the technical director and assistant coach. Now, take your name out of the hat because your name hasn't been in the hat, and I'm pissed off about that. No matter what you want to say, you should be considered for every coaching job in MLS and EPL and La Liga and Serie A and all this. Forget it. I know what you're going to say. Just forget it. Don't start with me. It's raining. It's thunderstorming. You're under bed. I'm already in a bad mood. So who would you hire? Take your name out. I know you would hire Joseph Pasek, but other than
look,
me and you,
a lot of decisions that are being made are not perplexing, but I do think that Bobby Smirnos be given an opportunity. I do think that he's earned the opportunity. I do think that transition. I mean, Forge is something that he created from Sigma and from a long time. He's worked with some very good players, but he knows how to win. He knows how to win. He knows how to compete. I think that he can get this organization on the right track, and we'll see. But I do think that Bobby Smirnos has earned the opportunity to take this organization over and run with it. Um, we'll see. We'll see how everything turns out. But I do think that Bobby Smirnos will be the next coach of Toronto FC, if not soon, but by the end of the year. And who knows? And I don't think that is a bad move at all. I think it's a very good move. Um, and I think that unless the MLS massive ego wanting to bring in a massive coach. Um,
so who's a massive coach for you? Like this guy took Smirnos
I
took them Forge. Nobody
know
knows
that
who Forge is.
Phil Neville would be a massive name, who just got let go by Inter Miami, but obviously his track record isn't very good. You look at other coaches that are kind of available right now that would want the experience. Like a Spalletti from Napoli. They would spend money on him. He has a great relationship with Insigne, having played for Spalletti and Bernadeschi if they want to keep that. There's a lot of big coaches out there, named big coaches out there that they can hire. But I don't know if that's the practical way to go. But I think that not only is Bobby the pragmatic and probably a popular choice, but I think it's one of the right choices, one of the right options for sure.
Hell, I'm gonna ask it. I know what you're gonna say, but I'm gonna ask it. Are you available? I'm
Joe,
not even looking at you. Are you
Joe,
available?
Yeah, I've obviously done something in the community that I haven't
All
earned
right,
it.
so hold on. I'm gonna call this out because nobody has the balls to call this out. All right. So you fire the coach. Okay. No, don't shake your hand here or shake your head here. No. When's somebody gonna call out Bill Manning? You see, it's puzzling about the choices that are made. When is somebody? Brendan Shanahan? They fired Dubas, but he's still here. What has he done in 6 years?
Well,
Enough.
I'm sure Bill had a very good relationship or has a really good relationship with Tannenbaum. But if that relation, like, I mean, if he only keeps, is it 4%? I don't like. There's a lot of details that I don't know, so I don't want to throw things out there. But I'm hearing that the teachers' pension is coming back. Maybe
Yeah, so here it is. I'm gonna tell you this, Carm. Like I said, sit back and all that. Here's the news that nobody else is reporting, and they're all scared to report. And I'm not scared. You know why? Because I'm the president of the province of the Canada, mayor elect of North America. Better be voting for me today for a mayor of Toronto. All right. It looks like a little birdie told me Larry Tannenbaum and a former Toronto Sun executive, and Paul Godfrey are getting together about getting an NFL team and playing out of a new renovated BMO Field in 2027, where, 2026, what's coming? They're going to build 60 to 65,000 seat BMO Field. That's the World Cup's coming. 2027 could be happening an NFL team that coincides. Everybody says the Buffalo Bills have a problem. If Toronto comes, Buffalo has a problem. Well, do they have a problem? Buffalo in 2026 are opening up a brand new stadium. What if the NFL, well, not what if, guarantee you the NFL has smoothed over everything here, and Buffalo will be getting a Super Bowl by 2027-28. Coincidentally, 27-28 is the rumor start date of Toronto's NFL team. Look how everything ties together. Tannenbaum has been very, first of all, he's an amazing person. Second of all, he's very passionate about football. Toronto FC, the Argos, and NFL team. What happens? Here's the big question, and I'm going to tie it all up. The Argos play out of where? BMO Field. Toronto FC plays out of where? BMO Field. They'll need some time to do renovations and build 65, 62,000 seat stadium. So, the Teachers Pension Fund is collected with Rogers and Bell a little bit. They got like 3% or something like that. So if you tie up together, and the Rogers Center has made millions, hundreds of $1 million in renovations this year, hundreds of millions of dollars next year. And by 2027-28, I'm going to tell you, there's not going to be a Rogers Center. There's going to be a new stadium. You got it? Good. Exclusively on the Fired Up Network. So people who steal comments, you know who you are. All right? If I don't see Fired Up Network, Carmen Asako is going to be very tactical and very pragmatic and all this and going to come after you. Right, Carm? Right. All right. So let's go here. Terry Dunfield, like you said, give me the worst case scenario and the best case scenario. Do you think the TFC could make the playoffs now that they have 15 games left?
Yeah, I mean it's that close that they can make the playoffs. They only have to put a few wins together, to be honest, to be in a playoff position. I mean, the best case scenario is the Vanni Sartini situation in Vancouver, where he turns around the locker room, turns around the belief, and they end up making the playoffs, and having a very good second year as well. And this year they look like a one of the better teams at times, as far as on the field for sure. And they're in a playoff position and beating LAFC in LA 3-2. So that's the best case scenario, and everyone loves Terry Dunfield, and he becomes the next TFC coach. Worst case scenario is Terry Dunfield lasts a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and Bobby Smirnos moves in, and then it's a rebuilding situation, and it's going to be a different kind of growth process. But I would not put it past Bobby in being one of the top 6 teams by year 2.
All right.
So he'll probably have a 3-year at least 3-year plan put in contract. And yeah, he's got a good grasp on the European market as well. I think there's nothing but positive as well.
So let me ask you this. Everybody talks about millions of dollars for players and moving around, getting traded and all that. Take us through from a coach's perspective. Let's say, forget about TFC. Let's say Portland calls you and gives you a great offer, okay? And you're stable here in Toronto and everything like that. And you want to go and you're going. How hard is it to take roots, because 40, 50 years in Toronto, building York University, building everything, and moving to Portland? Take us through from a coach's perspective. A coach does it. Players do it all the time, but they get paid $20 million. A coach is not going to get paid $20 million. So take us through that.
Well, there's like different perspectives. I mean, when you go through coaching courses and all that, it's kind of it's how you present yourself. I'm someone who would want to earn my responsibility, earn my respect from my players, and I would obviously look within to find solutions. Obviously there's going to be changes made, but I would definitely look within to find solutions. And for me, integrity is a big part of it, and character, mentality is a big part of it. So those are the things that I would try to address right away. But moving and finding the right core of players and building that respect through your knowledge and through what you can impart and make this team better is very important. And then again, I obviously have a style of play or a way I think that we can play and beat teams, but I think that we need to make the best, get the best out of the players that we have, and then make adjustments on the players that we don't have, and at that point we can build. So it's continuous evolution. So I'm more considered player first, player oriented, and
A
let's get the
player's
best.
coach.
Well, yeah, maybe so, but player oriented and get the best what we can from them physically, mentally, tactically, and then go from there. And then you won't have into a team that is built by you. You're not going to have the ability to mold everything. You're going to have to work with what you have as well. And I think that if it's a Toronto FC situation, you're looking at the strengths, looking at the weaknesses, you're looking at what players do best and what players do worse, and how you can optimize the success with the maximum capacity and getting more from your players than what you would have. So you look at an Insigne and a Bernadeschi, how are you going to put them in the most in the position where they're going to be most successful? You look at situations like that, and you might change your defensive shape. You might have more expectations from different players on the defensive side of the ball, or you might take away a little bit of their attack to give Bernadeschi and Insigne. And again, right now the solution is Sapong, but you would have to look at all these situations to maximize their success, maximize their level of. And then when you do that, when you give them that not comfort, you give them that clarity, they will go more over and beyond for the group and for you. That's important as well. Establishing roles and establishing a system that maximizes the abilities of all the players, and developing roles around those we'll call them special players, where everyone else is willing to give up and sacrifice for the group.
So you mentioned Manning, good friends with this, and that's why he may be bringing him as assistant coach or whatever. You as coach, is there one person that if you take a job has to come with you? Is there like the right hand man? Is there, or do you have a group of, okay, this guy and that guy, that? Because if you have one guy, you know what I mean. If you have like two or three guys, then you know what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, you have people that are for me, it's about individuals. There's someone that develops the individual in the small group, technically, tactically. So there's got to be a person, or maybe a second assistant, that does that. There's a person that buys into your system and knows all the intricacies and all the details of your system. That becomes a second, and then there's an eye elsewhere, whether it's in the stands or on the bench. It doesn't matter. That can analyze games as well. For me, there's a solution to every problem within your system, and that's why the second's there to all right, X plus Y this is the solution. If this isn't working, how can we adjust? The second assistant or the third assistant is there to prepare the individual in the small group for what we want to do, both with the ball and without the ball. So, and that's obviously built within our philosophy. But yeah, so there's different roles and different responsibilities for different people. But the one thing they have to be is selfless and humble, and wanting the best for the greater good. I mean, that's incredibly important. The greater good and what that picture is and how we can impart it to the rest of the group is incredibly important.
So a final question. We have actually a question here from Nathan Hill. Nathan Hill wants to know, Carmen, Uh, they say you're a great coach. I like how he's reported. They say you're a great coach. Who who is the coach you look to the most if you were hiring somebody?
If I was hiring someone, which coach would I look to the most?
Yeah,
Um,
I'll refer like maybe who looked the most, but who impresses you? Who would you want to coach your team, or just maybe even work together with?
you know, I like for me, I look at I would look at energy, motivation, uh, someone with a chip on his shoulder, someone that needs to prove something, someone that needs can develop a good rapport with the player, someone that's knowledgeable, and again, I mean, I'm limited in my scope but I do
I know
think
I
that
got that person,
I do
Ron
think
Freeman Nelson.
Bobby Smirnos checks a lot of those boxes, and I would give him an opportunity for sure. I would monitor who he supports himself with, who he surrounds himself with, but I do think that's there's within our soccer world, our soccer perspective. I think Bobby's earned that, right? And as far as other people, it's a good question. I would have to look at it. I mean, but I would have definitely have advisors that have been in that situation to help him. I remember back in the day, when Mo Johnson was the manager of TFC and I was one of the assistants, he brought in Bob Gansler, who was full of knowledge, who won MLS championships. Um, and he was there to be a mentor and a consultant who was kind of pushed aside and disrespected and not listened to. So if it was me, I would bring in someone of that ilk, which with someone with that knowledge. And again, if I go through a list of who, what, where, I would have to look at it a little bit. But I think that he would be a perfect mentor or support system for someone like Bobby to and knowing Bobby a little bit, I think he would have the humility to listen and to kind of take advice and understand what would be the best for the greater good. So in saying all that, yeah, it would have to be with someone with energy, have to be someone with a proper plan, and there would be a good balance between pragmaticism and want to show, want to make want to show and want to entertain the fans as well. Because the most entertaining thing for the fans is results. And Greg Vanny, who I have a lot of respect for, and Bazbachenko and that group didn't always entertain, but they always were efficient, and they always found ways to win, and they always found ways to put in creative players like Jovinko and Vasquez into that fold. And I thought that they also found spots for players like Zabayeka and made a big impression and a big role. And obviously Michael Bradley was massive too, and Josie Altidore. So yes, I want a good mix between pragmatic and entertaining football as well. Just what I see. But if things don't work out with and the other one that I respect a lot is the coach that coached Montreal, who's at Columbus right now doing
Yeah.
some great. So that would be the type of person I would look at, but I think Bobby can fill that role and ticks those boxes.
All right. So, quickly as we close this out here, special soccer show on the Fired Up Network. Let's switch to FIFA announcing a new World Cup 32 team club tournament, and it will be in the United States here. How big do you think this is for North America? Of course, having the World Cup and now another World Cup B, let's call it.
Well, there's usually a preparation like that. So I mean, it'll be a preparation for the World Cup. Usually they have the continental
Yeah.
champions, the girls, and I'm sure they'll do that probably as well in the North American market.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's let's be honest. There was nothing wrong with the format as was, right? There was nothing wrong with the format as it was, and we already have Champions League to, players are already playing 60 games a year, and there's unlimited, uh, there's limited rotation in those things. So Is this a good player thing? I'm not so sure. Is this a good marketable thing? Is this going to make money for FIFA and for the North America? Absolutely. So I guess that's the bottom line. Everyone gets paid more. Everyone makes more money, and it all goes to the bottom line. As far as a soccer aficionado, do we need more? Probably not. I think we get a lot, our fill of high level football, and adding teams to this, like 32 teams, kind of loses its credibility because it should be the winners, and that's it. That's my point of view. Obviously, I say things, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a subjective value.
All right, and a side note, as we know, Messi's coming, but it looks like Busquets is coming with him. Looks like July 21st will be Messi's first match in Inter Miami, and people are selling like crazy. What do you, and you've been a big proponent of Messi, right? So it can. Are you telling me this guy's going to get them into the playoffs? Going to be? It looks like they talk about scripted. If he goes to gets them in the playoffs and he gets them into the MLS Cup final, do you think it's going to be scripted?
I don't know. I'm not sure they have the right players surrounding him right now to make the playoffs. I don't know right now, and I know the manager that left took a lot of the brunt of it.
Never.
And, yeah, Neville. So I think that it's a lot's going to come upon the manager, but I mean, obviously, it's not at the same level. When they did the Higuain project, obviously it's 50,000 times bigger than the Higuain project, but he did get them into the playoffs after year 2, and he did have a successful run. And there are 9 teams going, and everyone's still got an honest chance. So whether it's the script or whether if they have to find some other players, to surround him as well. Is Busquets enough? No, but it's a start. So it's a start, and we'll see that there's got to be some substance to all the bells and whistles, and Inter Miami have to know that, and the ownership have to know that. So they have to bring more. They have to bring more. They have to bring more to make Messi successful. And the Argentinian national team was a perfect personification on how success is gained not only by the individual, but everything that surrounds the individual. But ultimately, if those pieces are found, then Messi will have a ton of success. If not, he'll have moments of it because he's brilliant. But beyond that, I don't think that Messi's going to make that much of an impact on the field just yet.
All right, and Carm, what are you doing Saturday? Because I'm hiring you based on today's conversation. I'm hiring you for one extra day, NHL free agent frenzy. You're gonna break down. You're gonna be the insider to break down all the things that the Maple Leafs are not gonna do and anything like that. All right, you're available Saturday. You're not doing nothing. Look, I see the Canadian soccer shirt, but it's Canada Day. You're not doing nothing on Canada Day, anyways, right? You don't invite me to your home for a barbecue or anything like that. It never takes me to the Versa. You're not doing anything. You're going to be an analyst, break down all the free agent signings, like the fourth line player getting $20 million to sign on with the Philadelphia Flyers. How about that? Can you break that down?
Did that actually happen?
No, but that's going to happen because that's what happens every year.
Yeah.
And you're going to break down Austin Matthews not signing his deal before July 1st with the Maple Leafs. But anyways, I digress here. Again, the big news today, TFC relieving the duties of Bradley. He's out. And Terry Dunfield's the interim coach of the Toronto FC. Any final comments, Carm?
Yeah, I'm hoping they get it right. I'm feel bad for Bob, who didn't have all the pieces in place. I feel bad for Bob that the generation of players that have come through, and the disappointment in Bernadeschi himself. And that for me and doesn't go back. The irony is Bob lost his job to the first person that actually.
the person who hired him. Okay, go ahead.
Hear me? You hear me?
Yeah.
The first person that hired him, Bruce Arena, sorry, hired him in the early '80s to be the assistant coach of Virginia back in the day, and I just missed him when I was at Maryland. He ended up leaving to go to the Ivy League school, and Bob. Anyway, I digress too. But I feel bad for him. I still think that his legacy on the North American game will be strong. And I just hope that the ship gets right. There's a lot to fix. I'm not sure they've taken the right measures just yet to fix it, but there's a lot to fix, and it'll be interesting to see how they move forward.
That's right. And again, that's one of the best, Carmen Asako, and people should be calling him all the time if there's a coaching job in MLS, in EPL, in La Liga, in Syria, and
Call
everything.
me.
So that's it. Uh, Sorry? Yeah, call him. That's right. Stay tuned for
Night.
more great programming here on the Fired Up Network. Thanks a lot, Carm.
See you, Joe.